YouTube, it's Brian Phillips. Look at this. We've got the 80mm F-16 by E-flite and the 90mm Viperjet by E-flite. Oh, it's so hard to hold both of these in the same shot, but they are awesome, and we're gonna review both of them right now, side by side for you. Stay tuned. All right, YouTube, so we're gonna try to, it's hard to hold those things. We're gonna try to fly both of these right now, but as you can see, it's cloudy and it looks like it might rain. So we're gonna leave the F-16 up here. We'll probably start with the Viperjet. Couple things to think about. Both of these planes come with avian ESCs with thrust reverse. Both of these planes have amazing retracts. Grass ops are totally possible. A little bit worse on this than this because the nose gear is a little bit weaker on the F-16 in my opinion. I have broken and fixed it myself because I landed on our regular runway. If you want to show them that real quick in case they're not familiar with Brian Phillips RC, this is where we fly generally. 222 feet at the center of the runway. You can see there's a couple of puddles there. We may take off here and then land on the main runway, which is 1,200 feet, but we've got Crown on the road. So anyway, without further ado, 7000 6S30C. We're using a Gen 1 in this one because we had 3 of them and one of them was discharged 15% already. So we're using the Gen 1 in this one. So it shouldn't actually make a difference in performance or flight times. I don't know if you guys saw what I did there, but I held, and these bearings on these wheels are amazing. They just roll like crazy. Okay, so I've already got this one turned on. I'm just gonna slide that down there. Look how huge it is inside of here. You could do multiple battery setups, but I'm just gonna go ahead and do a little bit of back taxi for you. Full disclosure, we have flown and crashed this one. So we're gonna see how things go. Elevator, rudder, ailerons, flaps. Okay, here we go. And then always test your thrust reverse, pilot fatigue. Pilot fatigue is where it goes full throttle immediately. We can easily take off in this runway, but we can't necessarily always land on this section of runway. Back taxiing is so much fun with jets. I just love the way that plane looks. And I hope you guys paid attention to where I put that 7000 6S because it is a perfect placement. You can get nice flare authority. Okay, here we go. Takeoff flaps deployed. 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 100. And there you go. Out of the flaps, out of the gear. Couple clicks of trim to the left. As I said, we did crash this plane. Oh boy, that's gonna disappear in the clouds, isn't it? 70% throttle. Full throttle coming here. Oh, it's rock solid, guys. Look at that. That is amazing. Take off flaps to give me a little bit more elevator authority. 30% throttle. Oh man, that is just juicy. Full throttle. Couple more clicks. And out of the throttle. Nice stall turn there. This is gonna be a dead stick pass. You good? That is so awesome. This thing will do high G maneuvering. It will do low G maneuvering, obviously. It will do everything you tell it to and more. Sometimes, if you turn the pilot fatigue on while you're avoiding critical landing moments, it may go into a flat spin, just not like I know from experience.
Might, possibly.
So if you guys are wondering about pilot fatigue, we have videos showing how to set it up. Just go to the playlist for this particular plane or that, and you can see exactly how we did it in the radio setup. It is a must-have feature on jets, especially if you have a short runway like we do. Man, that is so gorgeous, and the lights are showing up even in the daylight. Out of this throttle, into it hard. 7000 6S does the trick. Let's go down to the runway, the main runway. So you guys have probably figured out I have a number of different circuits that we run here on the front. With bigger planes, you do have to be a little bit critical about where you're gonna fly. Sometimes bigger planes do okay in small environments and sometimes they don't. We have had very good luck with this plane in particular because it is very easy to fly. Given that it is a big and expensive jet, I would highly recommend that you give yourself lots of runway It doesn't actually need it, but I'm just saying for the sake of keeping your plane intact. Oh, that is so gorgeous. And the sound is just amazing, folks. Okay, we're about 30% throttle, take off flaps. We'll go about 15% throttle, and we're just gonna relax into it. This plane is equipped with safe. I don't even really use safe on this plane ever for anything. Okay, I'm gonna trade you sides. Sure. Nice slow flight just to show you can do it. Let's bring you a nice slow pass. We got wind behind us and to our right. Full throttle. Amazing. Okay, full landing flaps, get it flying before you pull out of it. Gear, let's see if we can do a touch and go. Gear are slow on this plane, which is glorious looking. Oh yeah, nose gear up still. Awesome. I don't know if you could see that, but I had the nose gear up for most of that landing, except for about the last 15% of it or so. I touched down finally, and that is exactly what you want. You want to be able to run the nose gear in the air and keep the flare to control your rate of descent on the ground. And yes, we have had our 3.5 minute timer elapse, full landing flaps going in here, and gear coming down again. I want to just see another one of those gorgeous passes. And then I got to get over to my voltage. Look how slow that thing gets for us. Look at that beautiful slow. Don't flare if you don't have to, because then you bounce. Pilot fatigue, control your direction. It gets wonky and then out. That was not a long thing, okay? Long rollout. You know, the thing. We got enough. I think we go ahead and take off. We'll do another landing, guys. Okay. So just another thing that's really nice about thrust reverse is I have controllable thrust reverse here. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and do controllable thrust reverse right now. I'm gonna bring it around, just don't roll off in the ditch, Brian. Okay, and then I'm gonna go to forward thrust, because those bearings will let you roll real easy. Okay, so let's back taxi. It's a lot more efficient going forward than it is reverse, so if you back taxi a long ways backward, you will waste a lot of power. What a gorgeous plane. I had to shut up so you guys could hear it while I was going by. But we have the wind from right to left. So you guys are looking to our left right now, obviously. And so the wind is just kicking up a little bit. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna do a takeoff right here so you can see it right live and in person. Look how fast that rolls, guys. And I wasn't forcing it into the air, but I was definitely pulling a little bit of elevator, probably about 8% elevator, 10% elevator, somewhere in there. Oh, I love the scream, so amazing.
I don't know what it is about this one. It's one of my favorite sounding jets.
Let's get another sound of it. You ready?
Yep.
Oh, that is so cool.
So cool.
So guys, if you are into jets, EDF jets, realistic looking jets, this one is definitely a good one. The F-16 is more beautiful by a long shot in my opinion, but that is a preference issue. So, gear coming down, get your gear down early. The gear are slow and gorgeous, but slow. Look at that, going downhill, losing speed, love it. Barn door flaps. And there you go, pilot fatigue. And into just controllable thrust reverse. And you guys, you don't even have to go chase your plane. It is just so much fun flying these things with thrust reverse. I gotta say, it's one of the coolest features that I thought was such a gimmick and would not be a big deal. And yet it really has become almost a must-have on just about every single plane. Not as much as flaps. I have to admit, I still love flaps. And please don't look too close at where the holes in the wings are, because I did feel them with spackle and it worked gloriously. And then I used a pencil to match the gray color. And then otherwise, it just worked out really nicely, guys. So, you know how we normally fix things on camera? That crash was just not fun. So I was really, really, really irritated. And I know some of you guys get that way when you crash, and then other times you handle it better. This was a bad one for me. So I've got 33% left. I think one more pass, camera crew.
Okay.
Okay, so here we go. Take off, flaps deployed. Actually, no flap takeoff this time. 50% throttle just to show you a nice drawn out, beautiful takeoff. And then get that speed going, and there it is, guys, right there. Oh, yes. Oh, it's so good. I can't get enough. Guys, if you have not experienced, even if you get the 70, amazing plane. Definitely not flying that thing off grass unless you're belly landing it, which you can do, by the way. Tight squeeze there. Okay, we're gonna bring it down speedy with takeoff flaps, not landing flaps. Then we're gonna try for a flat landing approach. Watch the gear. Oh, that is so cool. Touchdown, and then go out of the gear and around. Guys, this plane is not hard to take off and land if you have enough real estate, but just so you know, that's about 700 feet of real estate, and we are getting low on power. Okay, takeoff flaps, landing flaps coming in. We're gonna do a more conventional approach this time because I don't wanna crash a plane again. I just did that last night. Okay, just relaxing. Let that battery recover. I'm at 0% throttle, about 5%, 10% throttle there. We'll just bring it in here. Flare at that last second. Hold the flare, and then pilot fatigue. Pilot fatigue to get you stopped, and then get out of it as soon as you can, because otherwise it will tip the plane up on its tail if you're not careful. And if you have the CG just right, that's exactly what's gonna happen. But guys, one thing too I can't stress is that with thrust reverse, look how much throttle how much power I have left. I'm at 22 volts right now. Okay, and it's gonna recover a little bit. But basically what I did on that last pass was I could tell that it was kind of losing some of its juiciness. Now, one thing, especially on a Gen 2 pack that you're gonna find, is that as you're flying and you're pushing it hard, there are times when the cell in balance is being balanced, and I feel like you get a little bit of a lag, and then it comes right out of it as soon as it's good. Now remember, this is a 30C pack, guys. It's not a 100C pack. It's not a 50C pack. The 30C packs are just amazing in the Smart lineup. So let's check it out and see how bad it's puffed. If it did, I kind of doubt it. I think we're gonna be like, actually, we were pretty nice to that battery today. I know some of you guys remind me how mean I am to my batteries, and I totally agree. I'm very mean to my batteries for your sake and my own, because you get flying and you just love watching these things go by at however fast they are. Reverse thrust. Oh yeah! All right, here we go. Throttle cuts on finally. All right, so there you go, guys. Crispy, nice, sharp edges still. That's the way we like it. That is beautiful. Now, one thing that's really nice about this plane is that not only is it easier to fly, it's fairly easy to see because the lights are extremely bright. Bright, like if the sun is shining, you'll still probably see them unless it's just right behind the plane, and then you're blinded anyway. So, love the forward-facing white lights, love the underbelly light. The only thing I don't like about the lights is I wish you were in the back, because it would help you orient a little bit better on landings, because you can see what direction you're pitching, because most of the lights are right along the center line of this plane. Now, is it definitely, is it an issue? Not really. It's just, you know, it's maybe 10% less awesome than it could be. So we bring that stuff up because we love these planes and we really love flying them. So we don't just do this for the show. We fly these things and we love them. And we want you guys to know like our real concerns, and then sometimes our concerns are just picky concerns. But really, this plane has been a flawless plane. It's been super good to fly. We haven't had any issues with the oleos. They're super strong. The bogies are strong. The retracts are strong. Everything just works. I flat spun it in that field. It landed in a pond yesterday.
Over in front of that tree.
And it was a little bit to the left, but still, either way, it doesn't matter where it was. The idea was, if you're flying and you throw into pilot fatigue without your thrust reverse on, or you have your thrust reverse on by accident, and then you cut your throttle cut off, then you will have a very exciting experience. It is gonna look exactly like Top Gun 1, flat spin. I mean, that's exactly what was going on, and I could not figure it out in time. Fortunately, I couldn't believe it. There was like a little bit of the tip got broke off over here. There was a couple of pinholes here that I'm covering with my beautiful canopy. Canopy didn't break. The nose got squished a little bit. Hot water fixed it. I mean, just Oh, there was a little dent here too.
Yeah.
But it was actually, I couldn't believe it. 100% of the servos, the retracts were down and it landed on its belly. They didn't get damaged. So I don't know, honestly, if the thing was aerodynamically spiraling like a helicopter and it just happened to hit the wings and break a little bit. But I was amazed how well it fit. Oh, we broke the tip off of the ventral fin on the left side.
Yep.
So we went ahead and fixed that and everything was golden. So without that small issue, I feel like this plane would have been extremely, like it would have had a perfect track record. And remember, don't blame the planes for the pilot's mistakes. But let's go ahead and back taxi because it's so dang gorgeous. I can't resist and we have enough battery left. We can do this. Now, can you fly this thing off of grass? Yeah, for sure. I don't like running my planes on grass because we have a paved runway that's really nice, and our grass, show them the grass right now. Yeah, it's like a work in progress, folks. So you can see where it's dirt and where it's like different types of grass and weeds. This is what happens when you get country ground and you try to convert it from hay ground to a temporary driveway back to a regular driveway. So you just kind of have to deal with it. And so I would say definitely awesome. Love watching it go through the water. You can see the reflection. The thing about this plane too is the bearings on the wheels are so loose. I am out of the throttle and it will idle all the way back to its buddy.
Well,
almost. Okay, I lied. It was almost to its buddy.
Kind of going.
But look how sweet the F-16 looks. It's like, oh, so gorgeous. So let's go back to the hangar here. So guys, take note that the Viperjet is bigger, okay? I want to remind you, the Viperjet wings come off easy. The F-16 wings come off easy. Full disclosure, I don't take the wings off. I have no reason to. I hate taking wings off, but they both have quick disconnects at the wing root. Okay, so now for the F-1680, what we're gonna do is we're gonna basically show you exactly where we're gonna switch things over. I'm gonna unplug this battery, obviously. We're using the same battery except Gen 1 versus Gen 2. So 7000 6S should be good for either one of these planes. At first, I was super reluctant to use the bigger battery in the F-16, but I just found that it got the CG perfect. And I was super, super happy with that. Now, is the CG where it's as marked in the book? I don't even know. I just know when I can flare and put it down on the mains, I like it. I like it a lot. Okay, so we're switching planes. So I just gotta find the F-16. So we might pause while I figure that out. That's a 70. Hi, we're back. And our lion just showed up. One of them. Watch the lion. She was totally gonna rub her face on the wing. Okay, if you guys have cats, make sure your planes stay away from the cats because they like to rub along the edges and stuff.
The antennas.
And then they'll bite them. Oh, it's so annoying. But anyway, okay, so this is a 7000 6S. I wanted to show you where it's marked. Okay, this happens to be a Gen 2, and there is a relief in this part of the canopy to receive all that stuff. This was a super well thought out plane. Remember, I have crashed with the nose cone on this. I have also rebuilt my nose gear, and I love this plane. We also did some custom art on the tail, which is designed after the Des Moines Squadron, which is super cool because I grew up watching them fly in Des Moines, Iowa. So that's pretty cool. So without further ado, anytime you get ready to fly a plane with reverse thrust, I would suggest that you test that along with all the control surfaces. We also set up flaperons on this plane. Okay, flaperons. Take off flaps, no flaps, okay? And then we also set up a mix for that, okay? That's on our C switch, and then that goes away, and that goes away totally. I think it's like this. See that? When the C switch is down, they're tied together. So that is an elevator to flap tie, is what I call that. And it's just a regular mix. You don't have to do anything fancy, it just does it, okay? So forward programming is awesome because any of these wing type changes and different mixing you do, you just go back through forward programming and it learns what's going on, which is pretty sweet. So that being said, because this is a bind and fly, you would have to factory reset the receiver to actually be able to take full advantage of all the features. And yes, If you want to put in an 8270, is that right? 8270? I think I'm saying that right. Instead of a 637, you can actually switch and do Telerons too, which is super cool. Because Telerons, of course, would allow those to act as ailerons as well. It would be super cool. So this plane is awesome. Sorry about all the intro work, but what we're gonna do is we're gonna pick it up. I don't wanna waste all the battery back taxing, and we'll show you down there from the takeoff. Okay, so basically one thing I'm gonna do that I didn't do on the last one is I've got my timer up here, which is less critical. And I'm gonna go to the screen where I can see my individual cells.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so that's a super nice thing to do because when you're flying, it's a little bit hard to do that. So one tip, okay, throttle cuts off. We're gonna test our throttle. Okay, we're gonna go reverse thrust, controllable, and then we're gonna taxi out a little bit, and then we're gonna check. Oh, that's so gorgeous. Look at the landing gear. I had to go that way because look at the red light. Oh, it's amazing. It looks so realistic. And then you see the lights at the front. Oh, those forward-facing lights on the gear door, it's just amazing. But then from this side, the gear door blocks your view of it. Okay, so then pilot fatigue is gonna look like this. Okay, and I'm out of it right away. All right, here we go. Takeoff flaps deployed into the wind. Gorgeous. Gear up, flaps up. Okay, so this is a considerably harder plane to fly than the Viperjet, if you're thinking about buying one. This one should show up a little bit better against the clouds. Oh, that is so gorgeous. But look at the ups still. The ups are still good. It's an 80. Okay, take off flaps. Get your speed up before you try to pull out of a climb or out of a dive. Oh, that is amazing. Oh God, I love it. Even up against the gray clouds. Now, one thing too about gray planes in Navy liveries, Air Force liveries, they will sometimes disappear up against this type of backdrop, okay? So just be aware when you're doing what you do. Okay, you good? I'm gonna go under probably.
Okay.
I wanna make this pretty fast one. Oh yes, it's so cool, guys. I love this plane. I don't want to crash it. I just want to keep flying it. Now, one thing, camera crew, can I trade you, go back just a little bit for me? There we go. Okay, so what I want to do is come out of the throttle here. Let's see if we can just relax down low. Oh, that is so cool. The slow flight performance of this plane is pretty good, but I don't think it's anywhere near as good as the Viperjet. I feel like the Viperjet has a wider flight envelope, but I also am gonna just say this right now. Because of my love affair with the F-16, I forgive all evils. Okay, take off flaps. Okay, into the throttle hard, up and over. I'm gonna admit to something there. I bailed on my maneuver. I was trying to bring it over the power lines and then down the runway, and I decided I'm gonna get too close to my stall point in a high G maneuver, and I'm gonna high speed stall it, potentially losing my plane in the process. Almost had a bird strike there. That was awesome. Love the white light on the tail, guys. Look at the nav lights. By the way, it is bright out here. It doesn't seem like it probably is with the dark clouds, but I am squinting, wishing I had my sunglasses. Oh, and by the way, if you haven't already learned, jets are battery killers, so be nice. That's my timer. Okay, camera crew, I need you to be on my right, please. Thank you. Back by the mailbox so I know where you are.
Yep.
Oh, there's UPS. Perfect timing as usual. Okay, I'm gonna go into a holding pattern across the road because he's got to pull in.
Probably gonna pull in, yeah. I'm by the sign.
Yep. Okay, camera crew,
Yep.
we good?
Yeah.
I'm gonna try to land right now.
Okay.
Take off flaps. Gear, I trust you're going back to where
I'm
the
by the
mailbox is, right? Okay, gear coming out. Keep an eye on what's happening,
Yep.
please. Only one gear.
Yep.
Did you see that?
Yeah.
That's the first and only time that's ever happened. Okay, gear coming down. Call them if you see them. They are slow. Okay, check for gear.
Can't see him yet.
I can't either. We're just gonna relax the throttle as much as we can.
I only see 2.
I only see 2 as well.
You might have to take it.
Nope. Gear going up.
Okay. He's gonna get ready to pull out.
Yep, I know. Why not have an extra complication, right?
I'm going back by the sign. I think he's waiting for you.
Okay. I'm trying the gear again,
Okay.
and if the gear don't work,
I only see 2.
I do too.
Okay, he's pulling out.
I'm landing it.
Okay.
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 Okay, so what happened there was one of the retracts didn't deploy. So we're gonna go find it and see if my crash landing was appropriate. I know there's ventral fins on there, and I know that there's ordnance on the wingtips. I know that it's vulnerable to damage in a lot of different ways, so it doesn't always work out this way, but I know that we have tall grass here. It's relatively soft compared to like corn or soybeans. Kind of come up here. But what I tried to do is I tried to bring it in here and just stall it into the corn or this stuff.
Yep.
So there's almost certainly gonna be some minor damage, but I don't know what happened with the gear. We're gonna find out here in a minute. Obviously the throttle cuts on. You don't wanna like wait forever to go find your plane because that battery will continue to discharge. By the way, showing them this poisonous stuff here.
The yellow, yeah, the yellow flowers is wild parsnip.
Yep, and it will burn your skin if you get
It's
the oils on you.
photosensitive, so if you rub up against
Photoreactive.
it. Yep.
Yeah, so basically what I did was I glided it in here and I was trying to use the wind to my advantage and I tried to flare it. So I'm hoping that I got it flared so it slowed down nice enough and then we can just figure out what happened. I don't know if that's a flower or...
Looks like a flower.
But like, look how tall this grass is here, guys. I mean, if you're gonna have to bail, just try to find the best grass you can bail into. And sometimes this stuff happens. You have to be prepared to deal with it. If you have an aircraft in the air like that, if you have a landing gear that fails to retract or to deploy, oh, there it is.
There it is.
Well, it's in one piece, but it still lands pretty fast. So my hopes are very much not, my expectations are low. The nose is off.
Okay.
So it's spun. I'm gonna let the camera crew hold that.
Okay.
Just checking for wild parsnip closely. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so we lost one of our missiles and missile rails.
Yep.
And otherwise we put the gear back up, obviously. We did have flaps deployed.
Okay.
Okay, so it looks like we have grass here. No, no,
tell if that's-
just leave it.
Okay. Broken or if it's just out of place.
I'm listening to it. I don't know if it's dead. Yep, that one's stuck or broke. I think it's probably broke. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and pick up the pieces and get out of here. So we'll be right back. Okay, so obviously that plane just went down and we've got some grasses and things that were stuck. I unplugged the battery just to kind of be on the safe side. One of the servos was acting kind of weird, so we got some grass here. Grass went in between this ordnance, so I'll try to just peel that. Okay, so that just let that fall. Okay, you'll notice the ventral fins didn't get damaged, which is pretty cool. Looks like this didn't get damaged. This had already been damaged, so I don't know with certainty if that came from, I think that came from an original damage because I had to fix one of the ordnance. I love the ordnance on this plane. That's why I like them on there because I think they're cool. They're bigger than they should be, I think It should actually be a smaller missile by about half. The canopy is totally fine. Everything worked out good there. This elevator or televator is just had a piece of grass in it. The other one has maybe a problem, so we have to find that out. Obviously the flaperons are down. A little bit of grass there between the inboard portion of the wings. I already pulled one out in the field. Did you pull some out while we were walking? No, I didn't think so. Okay, so in terms of damage, whoa. Okay, so I did break the ventral fins, but just now, because it fell off the plane stand. Then there's some more grass, and this rail ripped out of the foam. So this is the actual adapter, so that thing can be glued back in, actually pretty easy. Usually the best thing you can do is just literally glue it in. Oh, I actually had that backward. That's the adaptive fitting that goes right there. So those two teeth broke off right here. So fortunately, like, you can actually order that too. If you wanted to just replace that, the LED is fine because the LED is way back in there. If you're ever trying to fix this, you can actually glue these back together if you want to try. Sometimes I'll glue them together, sometimes I don't. It's not very much contact area is the only thing, so that'd be like a CA thing. This one looks like it's just probably gonna be okay with CA, but I'm not 100% sure. You gotta remember, you're going pretty quick with the plane, so you don't want to rip off in flight because it might shoot off at you. And then this one's got a little bit of a bend, and I noticed that before, but they do bend back very easy. So that part can be just glued back in here. In fact, it's already kind of like stuck in there because the adhesive was still there. So I'll probably just redo that with foam to foam. That'll get us attachment there. And then of course the ventral fins, when I knocked this off the plane stand, it fell down and banged into the countertop, which was a mess. So I'm gonna flip this over. Just be somewhat careful here. Okay, so on the bottom of the plane, we got a little bit of grass that just kind of went right through here, it looks like. We got a little bit of grass in the gear door. We've got some grass here, and just picking it out. This is all the things that you do after a crash. Looks like one of my scale antennas got damaged. This was damaged from previous crash, I know it. This damage can come out. If you ever have grass that gets jammed into your foam planes, one of the things that we use a lot of here on the channel, I know it's kind of, you know, a little bit strange. It's usually a lot of toothpicks and a lot of Q-tips. And, you know, foam media for some of you guys is like a new thing. You're not used to using, you're not used to working with foam, okay? So obviously pulling grass out and debris out of your planes is not a fun thing to do, but a lot of you are new to the hobby and you're just like, how bad is it when you crash? Like, is that like a $1,000 mistake? Is that a $500 mistake? Is that a, you know, whatever? Because this is an expensive plane, but the thing is, what happened was the gear didn't come down, and I took 3 approaches to try to take it to the ground, and just, it didn't want to go down. So usually what I would do is, if it was earlier in the flight sequence when the gear failed to deploy, I would actually go into a high G maneuver and try to help the gear pull out. I don't know what happened. We're going to look at it closely. It looks like we may also have some damage here. These ventral fins, that really ticks me off that I dropped that. I was so mad when that happened. But you see this? I can fix this one for sure. That'll be an easy fix. But just remember, the ventral fins are actually a flight. They are a flight surface. So when I put this back together, I was trying to straighten that and it was actually bent intentionally. See that? Again, these can be ordered as well. I know they can. I can probably just foam to foam that. That should be fine. If you want to come up with like a creative way to reattach the ventral fins with vertical support like what these are, then the creative way I've usually done in the past is that, and they're a lot easier to take off if they're not broken, by the way. What I've done in the past on something like this where you have plastic in foam is I will sometimes melt a piece of wire into the plastic, and then that reattaches this to this. But you have to get it all the way embedded so it's flat. So you'd have to like make an L-shaped piece of steel. And it's gonna have to be pretty thin, like really, really thin actually. So I don't even know if that's gonna work. You could use a staple. A staple would probably do that. You would bend the staple, one of the legs, heat it up, stick it into the plastic, ensure that you're going into the plastic and not the foam, because the foam won't give you much purchase, and then just push it down flat with like a flat-bladed screwdriver. Okay, so then those ventral fins go back on. That actually is a pretty minor issue because you can just order those too if you decide you don't want to fix it. And the plane stand has never let me down quite in that manner, but I had it sitting on here kind of funny. So that got bent, I think. That control surface, oh, we did lose the antenna off of there. There was, that might be a pitot tube. We lost one of those two, which is unfortunate. I did not notice that before. But I think we might have a nose cone. You can definitely order a nose cone. You can definitely order the ordnance. And that would also, I think this might come with the ordnance kit. So I'll have to find that out. Because like this is one of my favorite planes. It's one of my most beautiful planes, and I definitely want to get it fixed. And I will fix it. Okay, so now that is bent. I don't know if you can see it, but look. So this is one of the challenges when you deal with planes. When they're upside down, you want to try to get the side that's like close to the edge of the counter. So anyway, in reviewing this, I feel like this is such a fluke. I hate that this is part of the review, but there's a screw here. You think we can just take that straight out there, camera crew? I can't quite remember. Does that just pull straight out?
Oh, might.
So I don't even know if we lost the servo, but we de-energized it as quick as we could once we got the camera shut down. Yeah, I think I can undo this, because then I'm going to be dealing with steel. Okay, so let's undo this, and then that pin will release that pulls the televator out. And if you ever have a crash or a crash landing, you always have to go through the plane with a fine-tooth comb, because like some of this stuff, it will hide from you. Other things are pretty dang obvious. Okay, so that's out. I'll lay that down there. I'm gonna see if this slides out, and it does slide out now, so I can fix that now. So you can see how the shaft is bent. Okay, and I'm actually just gonna kind of keep going until this rocks out of the servo and out. Okay, so it's obvious where it's gonna go. And you can see what happened there. So this is just a straight piece of steel, and then there's a bushing, or there's a bearing in there actually. That bearing allows for pivoting. Okay, so this obviously spins free, which is good. That means it bent right here. So the only problem is I don't know, is it supposed to be, it is supposed to be at an angle. It is supposed to be at an angle. It twisted. This is correct. It twisted. It twisted. It twisted this like that. Okay. So look, this slides in there. I don't think it broke.
It just got
shifted.
Stuck underneath.
Yep, it spun. It spun is what it did. So now watch this, guys. Oh, we might have super lucked out there. Or maybe it did bend. I'm having trouble telling. You see? See how that's pointed down like that? That servo is at a different angle, but it got bound. You see how this pivots? So here's how we're gonna fix that. We're gonna not put this screw back in. We're gonna move back over here. We're gonna energize the plane, okay? What's the easiest way to do that? I think I can just crawl down here and do it while it's upside down. Oh, it might not. Might not initiate if it's upside down. So these are the types of things that if you're new to the hobby, first of all, that's why you don't get a plane like this. It's a little bit too advanced. Okay, so now that it's done, let's show them what happened. Look, it did hyperextend that. It hyperextended it. It's going slow because it's binding as it moves. So watch this. I'm gonna go ahead and pull this out. Okay. This would probably historically be something I would try to fix. I don't know if I'm gonna fix that one or not. Servo's bad now. Okay, gear. That whole gear assembly is not working. Okay, so I'm gonna just blow this one piece of whatever it is out, and I'm just looking inside. Everything is in there, but that means that the door servo and the gear servo. Oh no, the gear's trying to open. It's the door. It's the door.
The door like tried.
Show them from the other side. I'm gonna show them how we can differentiate this. This is gonna open, and then I want you to look at the landing gear. It's gonna try to push the door open. See?
Oh yeah.
Okay. Okay, so obviously we have to replace this servo. It is serviceable because look, you can unscrew here and you can get to it, which is pretty cool. I mean, cool if you want to talk crash damage, cool. It's really cool. Okay, so now what I need to do is, that was in the tailpipe, that's always interesting. This is gonna have to get, that's gonna have to get bent back, and I don't know if I can just bend it. I'm kind of thinking it's gonna be too hard to brace, because you see how it's got that wobble on it? Mm-hmm. It's supposed to be wobbled a little bit, I think. Or maybe it's not supposed to be wobbled at all. Okay, so did one of the wires come undone? If so, that would have caused that gear to knot. There's lights. Now I did land hard, so it is possible. That's lights for the tailpipe. Okay, rudder, aux. Just looking over the wiring here. But they obviously closed. Mm-hmm. So did the servo fail or did the control circuit fail? I don't know yet.
Is it a whole separate servo for the doors?
It's a separate servo for the doors, but that doesn't mean that there's a separate controller. Because look, there's a controller right here, but I think that's for the lights. No, that's for channel 5. So that's like a gear door sequencer. Okay, so let's, oh, I gotta go forward, just go back just a hair so I can sequence. No, nothing. It's so hard to tell because you can't see very well. Mm-hmm. I can see the servo now. There's a linkage up there, and I wonder if the linkage has got itself too far. So we'll have to look at that next. But guys, this is supposed to be an easy comparison video. And as you can see, with the hobby, sometimes it doesn't end up being easy. We are gonna run out of recording time. And so really, I guess, honestly, on this F-16, all I can say is it's a bummer when you have a crash. The good news is we have ailerons good. We have one elevator that's definitely good. We have rudder that's good. We have steerable nose gear that should be good. Yep, that's good. So really, I don't know if I want to say it like this, but I think the cause of the damage was that servo failure. Now I just need to figure out if the servo actually failed. So we're gonna pause, I'll see if I can find that, and then we'll show you what we found. All right, so I did a little bit of investigation here, and that thing that's on the side there is definitely a sequencer. It says G on it. I unplugged that to determine that there is a 3-way splitter that's going out to 3 different gear doors, and then I have my XBC battery checker used as a servo tester. And so as you can see, it's moving. I'm in the 1520 microseconds. Okay. So I could also do a sweep so that it opens and closes. I'm just looking over to make sure there's nothing like crazy going on, like before I get too far ahead of myself. Sometimes wires get shifted, sometimes things move in undesirable, unexpected ways after a crash. So it's nice to be able to test this stuff. Okay, now I'm gonna open them, and I want you guys to look in here where I'm pointing with the forceps. That's the servo we're trying to get to, right here. So I'm gonna just try to pull it first. Does it move? It doesn't move, it feels jammed. You're gonna have to go to the other side probably to see this, right?
I'm not sure.
Right there. There is your servo. There you go. There is the servo, guys, right there. So you see the servo body is there. Okay, so it looks like this one here. Okay, so we're gonna try to, we can do one of two things. We can either pull the gear door off and try to move it, or we can also look at the Y cable, which is right here. So we have access to that now. So we can see if maybe the Y cable disconnected. I don't believe it did. Connected. Connected. and then connected. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna disconnect one at a time to identify which one we're dealing with. So this is like just troubleshooting 101. Okay, so that was the main door. Okay, so we can plug that one back in because we don't want that one. This one here is another one, so let's just carefully unplug that. Okay, so that's the one that's in question. So because that's the one that's in question, I can unplug this because I don't really care about the other two. I'm gonna leave them opened. And I'm gonna pull this extension cord out. Oh goodness gracious, that glue makes it really hard to unplug, which is what you want. Because this sort of thing, you don't want this sort of thing to happen, obviously. Okay, so we're gonna plug this in to just the one in question. And then we're gonna try and we're gonna look at our current. Okay, so it's 0 milliamps.
Let's make it flare.
0 milliamps, so there's no load on it. Okay, so that makes me think that it's either the cable's cut or there's something else weird going on, and I'm just kind of feeling where that wire goes to see if I get a telltale sign on where that wire passes under. This one passes right here, okay? It's right there. Then this one must pass, I would assume passes over here, but maybe it doesn't because I can't tell where it goes. I'm just kind of pulling gently on the wire to see if I can tell where it goes. Oh, there's a wire right here. There's a wire right here. And I think that might be one we're dealing with right there. See that? It's in a real tight, awkward spot. See this, guys?
Oh, yep.
So there's a wire that's tucked into here. You need to go to the other side so you can not be in my way of my right arm. Okay, like that, see? So this one goes up to this, I think. But you see what I'm doing? I'm just reverse engineering the system to the extent that I can go ahead and replace it or figure out how to replace it. So that says CA something. That says channel 5, okay? See that? There's the wire coming up. Now what I want to do is I want to pull on this one real gentle and just see if it pulls through. It didn't pull through. So that could be our steerable nose gear. So a steerable nose gear, we are energized, so yep, so that is definitely hooked up. Obviously the nose gear itself is working. We already know that the retracts, all three of them are working. So maybe the next best option would be to try to pull down this clevis right here. So you're gonna have to come around to the other side like each time. See this? There's this clevis back here. I'm gonna try to slide down the little rubber boot thing, which is the fuel tube. Then I'm gonna pivot this. And then I'm gonna try to lift the actual door. If I get my finger in there. Is there another spot that's holding it too? It didn't wanna lift. What else is holding it? I think it's just still attached to the clevis. Let's see if I can get that. Oh, it's still through it, okay. Okay, so now that's released. All right, so we've done, the initial diagnostics have led us to where we are now, which is that servo is the problem. So now I'm gonna spin the plane around so we can see better. I'm gonna be careful it doesn't fall off the stand again. I just had it on there in a stupid way, evidently, earlier. We've never had a plane fall off of the plane stand that bad. We've had them slip a little bit, but. Okay, so this is the one that's bad, right? So if you come over to that side now, you can see now I can open the retracts. As you can see, the retract wasn't the problem. The retract was good, and I've said from the beginning, these retracts are sweet. They're like super robust. But it looks like that servo is driven all the way into the foam here. So I'm wondering if I can go ahead and actuate that now. It's not gonna move. I'm gonna go to a sweep, so it's going back and forth. So it's currently getting signal, but there's nothing happening. So that tells me that something failed on this orange wire, because that's the orange wire, comes out of that thing. This one goes to the servoless retract. So obviously the retracts were good, it was just the gear door that wasn't. Okay, so with added complexity comes more work. Okay, so everything looks okay. I'm not biting hard on these, just so you know. I'm just kind of using it to pull up the cable. Now it looks like it's going into some sort of like a heat shrink tube that's maybe holding the connector together. Okay, so now I should be able to feel this when I pull on this. Hold on, let me see if I can. I hear it. Okay, so now I've pulled that through to the accessible area. That's just a tape on there. So now what I can do is I can test my cable and see if the cable's bad. And the easiest way to test the cable would be to actually use the cable onto another servo, but I don't really have another servo like right here. So normally you would plug it into, say, like your rudder or your steerable nose gear or something like that that's real close. I'm not sure if I'm gonna do that, but look at that, look at that, look at that. Look close, turn your light on. Watch this, guys. Watch this, guys. Watch this servo flip. Watch. Nope. Nope, look, that might have been just from pulling on it. See? The sweep is still sweeping, okay? So now I'm gonna unplug here. I'm gonna let that, I have a little AS3X bind plug extension cord on there. I'm gonna put this here because that's a nice piece of tape. That's super sticky. Okay, now I'm gonna go straight into the servo to see if the cable's bad, possibly, somehow. Oh boy, there's nothing. That thing is dead as a doornail. That thing is gone. There ain't nothing going on. Okay, well, what have we learned, folks? We've learned that servos do fail. We've all known that for a long time. So what do you do about it when a servo fails? First things first, try not to crash the plane. So obviously in this case, we failed at that. But we did get it down in mostly one piece. I mean, it's in more than one piece now, but we can fix this, we can fix that, no problem over there. This part should be a pretty easy fix. I think once I get that detached, I could also compare to the other side, because I believe the other side, the shaft comes out of the wing straight. So if we have a bend like this, that means it just bent. So I'm gonna have to, there is dihedral or anhedral on that tail fin, or the tail feather, telebon. So it goes into the plastic straight, but it looks like it's got a bend in it. And so this is gonna have to get straightened. That is the worst damage to the plane because everything else is really pretty superficial. So I don't know if I'll have to, that's probably just gonna end up being a whole new one of these assemblies, but it's possible because you can see the way that the plastic is molded, it's supposed to be straight. See how it gets deeper and deeper and deeper? Okay. So that's going through like this, straight, instead of like bent like that, it's straight. So that'll have to get resolved. That part might be bendable, but if it bends and breaks, then we know that we have to replace it. So I guess, you know, there's certain times in these processes where you kind of realize that there is no other option. So you either bend it and it works, or you bend it and it breaks, and then you know. You're replacing it either way. Yeah, so, and this is a critical control flight surface. It's not like some optional one. There's a lot of redundancy involved. No, it's like, it is the one. So it's hard to brace this. So I'm holding it tight up against my belly. My belly, it's like a big muscle. It's like a eight pack.
Didn't mean to laugh. Swallowed wrong.
Really? So we got a little bit of a movement still. So I want to try to go a little bit more. And I know this is where some of you guys are cringing at home, like Brian just replaced the part. It's probably like a $10 part. And this is just, that's just not my style. I'm all about repairing stuff. Because I kind of like weirdly enjoy the satisfaction of knowing that I did it, even though it's not exactly perfect. That's pretty dang close. Okay, so there's a little bit of an up on this now. I don't know if you guys can tell when I spin it. See how this collar, that probably is good enough though. All it's doing is holding the bearing in place. So I feel like I might be tempting fate by trying to get it perfect. But you know what? It's not the first time I've ever done that. So guys, what can we learn from what happened here? Don't have servos fail. It feels good to know that it wasn't my fault, but it feels bad because I had a lot of faith in this plane being perfect and near perfect. And this one was a plane issue. This was definitely an issue with a servo that failed. And we have had quite a bit of mileage on this plane compared to what we normally have on planes, but I would say that it's still probably minimal. Oh, and that servo's bad too.
Oh, so that's
I forgot about that. But let's just see if it's straight at least, because it's definitely, the servo is bad.
The other thing is...
Not the servo's fault, by the way. It's
well, no, that one wasn't. The other thing to learn from this is...
Yep, obviously the servo is bad.
That's right.
But it's definitely moving.
Yeah. But you have to have a plan. You have to have, because things happen.
Yep.
Whether it's within your control or not.
Yeah.
And no matter where you're flying, if you have 1,000 open acres, if you don't have a gear door come down,
what are you going to do?
And you have to land somewhere, you have to know ahead of time what you're going to do.
Well, and not so much that you have to know ahead of time. You have to be able to think on your feet.
Yeah, that's true.
And so I've had 2 crashes of 2 expensive planes in the last 12 hours. So some people would say quit flying forever. I would not do that because that's just not me. Now I want to not have a crash again for a long time. But the thing is, I'm kind of a realist. So the thing is about this, when you do have a crash, it's very easy to get down on yourself and be upset and, you know, be pissed. And in the moment, it's pretty hard not to be for a variety of reasons. But here, let's see how hard it's going to be to get the servo out. Let's just show the people. I mean, because like we're already, you know, this deep into it. We might as well just show the people how to do this. So guys, when you come to Brian Phillips RC, you get so much more than just reviews. We share with you how to fix things that other people just assume you're going to know how to do. Okay. So that cover is keyed. It will only go in one spot. That's pretty good. Okay. And then holy cow, that is the best design I've ever seen. Okay, so that's an A450R sub micro. Yeah, I don't know if I have one of those. And that is an R, which means it's reverse, of course.
Right.
It's not going to be the one that's straight. Why would it be the straight one?
Right.
Or the forward one. So servos go 2 different directions. One is just considered like standard or normal or forward, and then one is considered reverse. Okay. Reverse is reverse of standard. So if you put it in here, then the ailerons, or these will operate backward from one another, opposite directions. So they will, when you pull up on the elevator, this one's gonna go up and then this one's gonna go down. Yeah. So it definitely won't work. Bad. Unless you put a servo signal reverser in there. Or you get a reverse servo like you obviously should because it's a reversed servo.
Why are you taking that?
Because that's how I was gonna see where the wire goes. Yeah, see, these are the types of things that my camera crew does not understand, and I do. Because when you work on machines for a living, you figure out really quick that you have to take things apart to fix them. And that's what I have to do all the time.
No, I just know what it means when you start taking things apart.
It means that something bad happened. Yes.
It means I'm still here
filming. Okay, wowzers, this could be like the biggest awesomeness ever. You see this?
Where does it go?
So it goes down that channel. Now the other thing is, if you guys, okay, so it goes under the EDF module. What the heck is going on there? Oh, that's clear plastic. Whoa, they have clear plastic covering the wiring. That is so cool. Shine the camera through there.
Oh, I can't get it to focus on anything.
You can.
I can see it in real life.
There, okay.
There.
Here. So what's going on, guys, is that behind the EDF, there's got to be a channel to get the wires through, okay? So the wires pass up to where all the controls are and where the ESC is and all that stuff. What I noticed that I had never noticed before is that there is, in fact, a clear piece of plastic down there, which is really cool. And if I were to remove this EDF fan, which I'm probably going to have to do that too, to be able to get to the bottom. Ooh, that needs like a bigger screwdriver too. Like a number 2. So anyway, if you guys are wondering, like, when's it all gonna end? You have your flash on still, by the way. When Brian Phillips does a video for you on YouTube,
Never ends.
No, it's just like we've seen a million videos where people say, wow, look how good this plane is. You're never gonna have a problem. It's the best thing ever. And that's kind of like the beginning of this video when I was talking about how awesome this plane is. Well, I'm gonna still say this plane is awesome, which is why I'm putting this much effort into trying to teach you guys how to fix it. If you don't know, if you already know, if you already have the skills to do this, I completely understand. We don't mean to talk down to anybody, but there's so many new pilots out there that need help. And so what we're doing is we're just taking a minute. This is a number 2 screwdriver. It says P2 on there. It's a Phillips number 2, as opposed to a Phillips number 1 or a Phillips 0.5 or a 1.5 or whatever it happens to be. And this is probably a Phillips 0, okay? See the difference in size. So if you use the wrong size screwdriver or tip, it's really hard to actually get screws to break free if they're under load or if they're torqued. Okay, so you see what I'm talking about now? Plastic. Okay, so there's your light connector. So if you were gonna put in an afterburner, and I was just double checking. Yeah, it looks like this has a really long cable on it too, you see?
So it goes all the way up to the front, probably.
Okay, so a couple of choices for us. I always like options. And by the way, just take a look at that glorious EDF. That thing is so sweet. Oh my goodness. That is amazing. Okay, so at this point, this servo, there's 2 ways you can go about fixing this. You can do it the easy way or you can do it the Brian Phillips way. The easy way, and it says reverse right on it, okay? See REV. It's unusual that they label them reverse. It's usually just they are reverse, and as a matter of fact, they are reverse. And you have to know these things because you use your intuition, your RC intuition, except nobody ever explains that to you when you're new, unless you watch Brian Phillips RC, and then of course you will be privy to these details. What I'm doing now is I'm looking for an ultra small screwdriver because an ultra
Can I wanted to guess the Brian Phillips way of fixing it.
The hard way?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm pretty sure they already figured that out. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take apart the servo, because we don't just replace servos here.
Can I make a suggestion? What? Can we move the garbage can? Why do you always do this over this spot where you're gonna lose things into perpetuity?
Do you see this cat
around our lump of a cat?
This cat will come and sit right next to us.
Wherever you are.
And
wants to be behind your feet.
Behind your feet and just lay there. I'm not moving.
The most in the way.
If there's a fire and you need to run out to save your life, I'm just gonna lay right here.
You should come back in and get me and carry me outside.
Yeah, because I know you're gonna do it anyway. He's super lazy.
Worthless.
It's hilarious.
But everybody loves him.
He's also nice.
He is.
There's at least one nice guy in this house.
Yep. Hey, our boys are nice.
Oh yeah, those guys. Those are kids.
Oh.
They don't count the same.
They don't count.
Okay, so listen, I'm gonna do this 2 things. I'm gonna mark the position of the servo. We're just gonna center it with the servo tester. Okay, so I just laid that screw down there to get confused with other screws later. Okay, so I'm gonna pull this out. Now this is a metal gear servo, okay? So my guess is probably the damage to the servo is in the control circuit.
There's another cat.
Look. Okay, so you can see all the metal. They are all metal gear servos. Now, not to be confused with cheap metal gear servos, because cheap metal gear servos will sometimes have, get this, plastic gears. And yes, that actually is a lot of the time.
A metal part.
Actually. Okay, so let's look at this function while it's opened. Do you want to give them a shot where they can actually see the gears there? Instead of filming from the backside there. Maybe here. Okay, so that's elevator up, elevator down. See how it's delayed? Okay. So what I'm looking for is a mechanical issue. And sometimes it's as simple as a broken gear. Sometimes it's simple as a bent spline. Okay, now I need you to trade back so I can work over here. And I'm thinking about possibly, is there a way I can push the whole plane back just a little bit? Yeah, look at all this crap we've taken off for this one servo. That's what happens when you dig into these RC aircraft, folks. This is a very complex machine. And when you start seeing the level of complexity, on these aircraft that then you're like, wow, I can't believe they sell it for that. Because just think, at some point there was some human being that had to put all this crap together. And then you start thinking about, feast your nose on that.
Oh. Yep.
You pointing the camera randomly when you did that.
I know, but it's not.
That circuit looks really clean actually for a servo.
It does not smell clean.
No, it smells like it overheated badly. Like, is it broken? Probably. Probably the control circuit's bad.
There's no like burn mark or anything.
No, there isn't actually. And sometimes, like, the motor could be bad.
Can you replace just?
I'm gonna just pull the motor out and show you what happens when you move the stick. Look, guys. Motor's bad, or not the motor. See how it's moving like.
It's like something within the motor.
Like I said, the control circuit could be bad. I don't think it's the brushes. I think it's probably one of the chips. One of the chips. That thing is hot as a woo woo. You feel it?
Holy cow.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
It's very hot. You want to know why that? Now watch what happens. You guys know what feedback is? Watch this. There's a trim pot over here. See how it's moving? That's how you know it's bad, because if you move it, that should try to find center. And it's trying to move the direction that it's going to take to move this gear set back to center, because the feedback pot is over here, okay? So I think the pot's good. I think that the control circuit is probably fried. And that's,
yeah.
And that's what happens. Always get that centered so that this isn't running the whole time, because that will actually like pretty much catch on fire. And yes, that's right. They do melt. And yes, that's a piece of like wax parchment, which is kind of weird. Oh boy, that's so hot. Holy cow. That is about to catch on fire probably. So I would say at this point, we know what's wrong. Our options are limited on what we can do to fix that beyond replacing the servo. If we replace the servo, we have to also replace this servo, because this servo is absolutely bad. So why don't we go ahead and yank that one out too. Now, if you guys are trying to get a servo out that's in a pocket like this, sometimes it can be easy and sometimes it can be hard. That didn't work very good, so don't do that. I'm gonna try to grab onto something that's solid, like the output shaft, and see if I can just pull up. Nope, it's not gonna be easy. It's gonna be hard. So what might need to happen is I might need to take a knife or a flat-bedded screwdriver, since that's closer. And I can literally go right here and just try to release this foam from the edge. Okay. See how I'm just kind of pulling it back a little bit? I'm not trying to break the foam, I'm just trying to pull the foam back. This is going to be one of those videos where people are going to be like, I want to see it fly again. Well, maybe with the gear door off, maybe with the elevator. I could probably fix the elevator servo, because I'm sure I got a control circuit, except I think the last control circuit I had was on a standard, like a forward. But you can see what goes into fixing these. Just imagine building it from scratch, folks. Yeah, I just put a hole through there.
Like glued in there. Yeah.
You see that?
Yeah.
That kind of ticks me off, but what are you gonna do? You know, that stuff does happen. Well, yeah, that glue is like really sturdy. I may just have to kind of work it back and forth a little bit. The other thing you can do is put kicker down there. That kicker will release the glue. If you release the glue with kicker, then it will definitely let you have that out. But I mean, I'm glad it's glued in there solid. That makes me feel better about the plane, you know, because they glued the servo in there super solid, but the servo failed. And by the way, the elevator servo only failed because the way that it bound after that crash landing. So I'm kind of not blaming the servo necessarily for that. That was definitely because of the crash. What came first, the chicken or the egg? This servo killed that servo, which is sort of a strange lineup of events. I don't know why I didn't take that off before, but I'm gonna take it off now. So really, it's like there's a lot of nitpicky stuff, but really the thing fared reasonably well given the circumstances.
Yeah.
Parts that will need to be replaced, obviously those 2 servos, probably the nose cone, because I did miss an antenna. Technically, I don't know if this is part of the wing or part of the ordnance kit, but the ordnance kit would get you up to snuff right away. This I was able to fix without too much effort, okay? So that's pretty amazing. I'm happy with that. I feel like it's solid steel. I think it's still totally solid. The amount of load on that is going to be limited mechanically. I mean, if you felt how much pressure I was putting on it to bend it, if it was going to break, I would have felt a weakness. You can always feel that before they break, in my experience. So, I mean, it sucks to have failures, but it's not necessarily the fact that it fails. It's the fact that like E-flite will back you up on stuff like this if it goes wrong. I don't know if you've crashed it 14 times, if they're going to help you out too much, but in our case, 2 servos, it's a pain, but that's the main ticket. That's the big ticket items. So it sucks to have a failure, but man, I still love this plane. That's why I want to fix it, because I want to get it back in the air as soon as possible. But anyway, if you guys want to buy this plane, I know it seems like kind of a bad time to talk you guys into buying this plane, but I would definitely buy this plane. This is a good plane. I love it. It flies great. It lands great when the gear come out. I don't know if you saw the approaches, but they looked glorious. And I was like, oh, there's only 2 wheels down. Why is that? Which is super annoying. But obviously the Viper, we've had rock solid performance, even post crash. Keep in mind, this has been crashed before this crash a couple times. And you've seen it. I don't know if you guys remember my landing where I came in and thrust reverse before I hit down and it went boom, and it blew up in a million pieces. All the side stuff came off, the nose came off, the canopy came off. It looked like an exploding plane. It was hilarious. Those things do sometimes have an impact on the performance, the general performance of a plane. So it's possible that maybe the long-term effects of that crash are coming back to haunt me today. But either way, we really like it, and we think you will too if you get one. And if you want some help figuring out how to fix your planes, this is a place to be on Brian Phillips RC. We don't shy away from it as much as possible. Last night was a different situation because we had neighbors that showed up, and that's actually kind of what caused the crash. But it just made for an environment that really couldn't be filmed. So our apologies for not sharing that event. It would have been a good teachable moment, but also it just like wasn't something that we could share because of the nature of our neighbors being there. Let's leave it. Is that the safest way to put that?
Yeah, that's probably, yeah.
Okay. Anyway, all right, guys, that's all you get for tonight. Brian Phillips signing out. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the videos. These videos are a little bit, we get punished from YouTube for doing long format because we're trying to teach you guys things. Obviously, it's not quite as exciting watching me tear off all these parts as it would be watching me go by at like 100 miles an hour, like 6 feet from the camera. But the reality is this does kind of come with the experience. And if you don't think it will, you're in the wrong hobby, because you will be doing something like this if you get a plane like this, not this plane necessarily. I hope that you won't have this exact experience that we did. I think this is probably a fluke, but leave it in the comments below if you have questions. We would like to try to help you. We're a little bit behind on comments, so please forgive us. We're doing our best to get caught up. Obviously, putting together content and then having crashes delays things a little bit. But also, if you don't like this plane, you're like, you know what, screw that plane, it had a bad servo. Okay, fine. Then the Viper is awesome and is definitely a good plane. You'll be rock solid choice, by the way, rock solid choice. You'll love the Viper 90. Also, note the difference in ups are very similar. I feel like this plane looks so good in the air that it makes up for any sort of the idiosyncrasies that we have dealt with in, you know, flying, performing with this plane. Also, I believe they're in stock right now. So if you're watching this in like 10 years, they're probably discontinued by now, but that's okay. Just follow the link anyway and you'll see. And then guys, check out brianphillipsrc.com. That is our own page that is affiliated with all these different planes that we do. One of the reasons we want you to check it out now is because all of our affiliate links are changing again, which is like a humongous undertaking. I mean, we have like literally thousands upon thousands upon thousands of links. And it's basically so that people can find them. And if you just look down below, we spend a lot of time making sure that they're organized in a way that you can find stuff. If you can't, because that's too disorganized, go to brianphillipsrc.com, find the plane you want. There'll be links that will take you to where you purchase. We get small commissions from the people we work with, like Horizon Hobby and some other vendors that we work with, distributors and things like that. So that is how we fund our channel. So make no mistake about it. If you follow the link, we'll get credit. We get credit. That means we keep doing this stuff. So it's really good. It's a win-win-win for everybody. If you don't like that, or maybe you're overseas, it's a little bit too expensive to ship, something like that. I don't know. You don't have enough money to buy this plane right now, but you want to throw us a few dollars for support. There's Patreon, which is monthly, and then PayPal as well. So those are the big ticket items you can do. Obviously, we want to help you guys get back in the air as fast as possible after tragedy strikes. But in this case, the tragedy could have been a lot worse, because I was really thinking I might try to land it on the road, and I'm kind of glad I didn't. Although, I don't know, hindsight, what would have happened is I would have come down, I would have put it on the mains and tried to slow down, and I'm just visualizing this. And what would have happened is I would have probably hit the nose gear, I would have lost control, it would have flipped over, it would have tumbled, it would have been a huge mess. We probably would have broke wings, we would have broke fuselage, we would have broke vertical stabilizer, we would have broke landing gear. It would have been harder for us to establish what actually went wrong.
Yeah.
So I think, given the circumstances, as crappy as this situation is with a singular bad servo on a complex plane like this, I feel like, we came out okay. Could be worse. So always keep that in mind after a crash. Could be worse. Learn from it. Is there anything you can do different? Last night, there were things we could have done different, but we didn't. We did kind of the best we could given the short circumstances. Here, we did the best we could, and I think we did better. But it still sucks. So, part of the hobby. All right, guys, that's all you get. Stay tuned. Leave the comments in the comments below, guys. We'll talk to you soon. All right, YouTube, so real quick, we're gonna show you something. I got the servo fixed, and you're like, you fixed the servo? Yep, I did, sort of. This is an A450, and I added the R feature, the reverse feature, okay? And then I took the bottom that said reverse on it and put it back on there. And I'm gonna show you what I did. So basically you can see when this drops back into the servo pocket, I did not just buy this. You can buy it if you don't want to go through this process. I'm going to just tell you what I did real quick, because it's always good to have these tools in your tool bag, or these skills in your skill set, right? So I'm just going to tuck that back into this little channel. And basically what that's going to do is that's going to be done with the servo. And we were kind of talking for a real quick second, me and the camera crew, about how serviceable this plane really is. See how it's going the same direction? That's what you want for an elevator, of course. Okay, so then this is going to be then attached, and it's going to move. So what's going to happen is I'll put that cover back on in a second, and I'll show you guys what I actually did to fix this servo so that it would go the right direction. Since it's a ball link, you can actually make a bit of an angle and then just slide this back in, and then I'm going to show you exactly how this works. Okay, so then the elevator, and you remember how it was slow and like kick. It works. So
if you break it now.
But I'm just trying to show the people at home that even after a crash, sometimes it's good to sit there and kind of evaluate whether or not the crash was devastating to the plane or not devastating. I want to point out one other detail here. This gap, you're not going to be able to see from that angle. Show them right here. This gap, how it's so perfectly even. You got to line up right with that opening. Now show them this evening, or this opening. You see how it's not perfect? See how it's pointed forward? Okay, so that's one other thing that I missed when I was doing my adjustment, okay? So what I got to do is I have to now pull this back out and just let the ball joint do its thing, okay? And I'm going to undo it from the servo just like this by just continuing on. And then it's currently like this. I need to get it to go like that a little bit. So I'm going to do exactly like I did before in just preparation to get everything square. Okay, so the easiest way is to get down here at the base with the crescent wrench, support this on my belly, and I'm going to pull it back up toward my head just a little teeny bit. I mean, it doesn't take much. You're doing a minute adjustment here. earlier was a pretty major adjustment, okay? But you need to make sure that that gap clearance is about even. See, I overdid it a little teeny bit, okay? So now I just come back here, do the same position. I'm just gonna go forward just a teeny tiny bit, okay? So there you go. And we're gonna slide that back in there. Did I overshoot again? I overshot again.
Yeah.
So
I think you were good. You probably should have left it.
Yeah, I know. That happens a lot to me. Probably should have left well good enough. Is that, you always say I say that's
Well enough alone.
well enough alone? Okay.
Good enough alone.
That's not the way it is. In the Lewis song. Okay, get in there. Huey Lewis in the news. There you go. There it is. Oh yeah. Look at that, guys. Okay, so the gap, I think the gap is probably okay. Let's see what it looks like when we actuate the elevator now. Elevator up, elevator down. No chance of hitting. That's the important, critical detail. And that's what we're concerning ourselves with. Then we're gonna set the set screw, and all that does is it goes down into the gap on this shaft. The shaft that we just bent, there was that weird gap in there. That just prevents it from pulling out. That is all it does. It's not biting it. If it's biting it, you don't have penetration all the way deep enough, okay? So now that that's in there, watch for binding. Yep, we're still good. Of course, this is popping out. Okay, so we're golden. We have good response. Everything feels nice and free. So now all we have to do is put this back on. And then I told you guys I would show you what I did. And what I did was basically I took the guts of the servo out. So I don't know if I showed you guys this in the video, but I pulled this out and we were looking at the motor and we were like, it's moving and everything. So I had to desolder the servo cable, which is, this is off of the new one. I took it out of a crashed plane actually, not a new one. And it was like this. And I just desoldered that. And then what you have to do to recreate a reverse, which I should have kept this lid because then I could have just put that lid on there. So that R means that these two wires are flipped, and then generally it looks like, yep, they did the two outside wires. So to make this into an A450 instead of an A450R, which is reversed, flip these two wires and then flip the two outside wires or any of the two wires on this feedback trim pot, okay? So also I took apart the gear door servo and I looked, and you remember how we were talking about some Metal Gear servos are not created equal? Okay, look at this. And the motor's not stuck all the way up in there. So this is the bad one from the elevator. It got broke because the elevator bound, okay? So it destroyed either the motor or the control circuit. This one is giving us nothing, like 0 ohms of resistance on our cable, which means that the cable is okay through to the circuit board, but there is no resistance at all. There's no current load, there's nothing. So something is wrong on the circuit board, probably a total open. Like a component that would normally fail high or fail low, this thing failed open like it burned. So I don't know what happened, but I remember the cam crew mentioned the gear door closed and then they never failed to open back up. So what that means, or they failed to ever open back up. So I believe we lost a circuit here, which actually killed a completely unrelated because of our belly land. Okay, so the reason I showed you that is if you ever decide you want to make a reverse because you've only got a standard in stock, it's as simple as literally switching this wire and this wire here and here, or here and here on the motor. Sometimes it's a little easier on the motor. And then switching any two of these 3 wires, these red wires here. Not the servo leads. You can't just plug in the servo backward, because all that's happening on this servo lead is you have a ground wire, that's ground. You have power, which is your positive side of the electrical circuit, your ground side of the electrical circuit. So your DC voltage comes through here. In this case, I think this runs at 6 volts on the BEC. Sometimes it's 5.5, sometimes it's 5, sometimes it's 3, sometimes it's 7, sometimes it's 12. It just depends on what plane you're flying. The big planes run on more. Okay, this is signal. So if you flip that, nothing happens. It literally will just do nothing, okay? So if you've ever plugged the servo in backward, it'll also kill everything else on that circuit. Not kill it, it just won't work. Because the signal is then in parallel with ground relative your reference. So then you will be done. All the servos that are attached to that port will go nothing. They'll sit there and chatter or do nothing. Okay? Camera crew has a question.
So if somebody is new and this is the first time they've had a servo or they're switching one out and they don't have a reverse and they don't know how to solder or they're scared to like take
Buy
that
a
thing
new servo.
apart, or can you use a servo signal reverser if you have one?
A servo signal reverser is a small device that goes in line between your receiver port where you would plug it in. Imagine this is a receiver port. You plug it in. It goes in between like this, and you just plug that in, and it switches the signal for you. It actually actively manages signal coming in. The pulse width modulation is then flipped.
So you could use that.
You could use that instead. But the catch on this one is that you can't probably fit it here. So the catch is you have to probably fit it up here where the receiver is.
Right.
Or better yet, upgrade to a better or bigger receiver than the AR637, and you could just put a standard servo there, and then you can just make the assignment for which direction. Because like when you pull back on the elevator, they'll go opposite directions. All you have to do is just assign channel and channel. And guess what? All of a sudden, then you can flip that one channel that's going the wrong direction. You pull the elevator stick back, they both move. Okay?
Right.
And you can also make an assignment for televons like we talked about. Okay, now to do that, if you stay there, I'll grab this. Basically, what you would need to do is grab yourself one of these bad mama jammas. I think it was, I said it wrong, it was the Air 8360T. That's gonna be what I would call like a drop-in replacement in this application. That also gives you another one for an afterburner channel if you want to do a separate afterburner channel. Then you would have true full flaperon performance, because right now I only have the AS3X on part of the wing. That is a trade-off when you set it up the way we did it. And if you go back through our very beginning unbox build radio setup, maiden flights, crashes, and then later on we set up flaperons. Later on we did the thrust reverse, because this was one of the first planes we did thrust reverse on, right? And we were told it sucked and it didn't work. Well, that was wrong. It works great. It's actually a huge help. So, but this will give you the full range telemetry just like you have on the AR637 TA. Okay, but the TA doesn't have the barometer function. So you would get the barometer function also with this. And by the way, these are not that much more expensive. I think it's like 15 bucks more.
Than a 63.
But that's a pretty expensive receiver still, no matter how you slice it. So the reason I show you that is because it's important for you guys to understand that if you're new to the hobby, you know, crashing is part of the game, let's call it. Sometimes it's actually not your fault. Most of the time it's your fault. Most of the time it's my fault. But then sometimes it's like a component fails and you fail to recover. In this case, I had a component failure and I was stuck. Like I had to make a choice. The only thing I could have done better is if I would have come in high alpha, then I might have been able to maybe slap it down into tall grass and avoid the damage. But it's kind of like, you know, 6 1/2 dozen, because what's gonna happen is you'll come in fast and you make a nice flat approach, you spin, you limit the damage. If you come in like this, you can plop and break in half.
Yeah.
So it just depends on where you wanna kind of put your gamble.
Yep.
So in my case, I just wanna give you guys that quick update. This servo, I did take a regular Insta set kicker, which I have links to this stuff obviously, and I just basically dripped that down into that pocket area and just kept working it and working it, and eventually it did pop free. You can see it had a lot of material still stuck to it, okay? So that's the bottom of that cabinet. So that one's super easy. I can just replace it with any servo I have. It's so provided it goes the right direction. This is not a reverse servo. Where's the lid on that one? This one didn't even have a label on it, okay? So sometimes they use unmarked servos, but I believe that it's in the same class. I just don't know if it's a 330 Metal Gear would be a different number. So I can't even tell you what servo this is. The crash plane wing that I used for this, I could technically steal parts from that. And I would be a little bit tempted to take this control circuit out and test it. But here's my problem. If I do that and the circuit was bad, then I'm moving a bad circuit over to this one. I tend to think the circuit controller is bad on my old elevator servo and not the motor. The motor is still working. A motor is sort of a passive device. It doesn't make any decisions. It just acts upon voltage, okay? Especially on a dumb brushed motor like this. A smart motor does have some feedback features built into it, but really the motor at its essence is a shaft with bearings, that spins, and you've got magnets that pull things around, okay? The controls are handled by the ESC. In this case, the controls are handled by that little chip. There's one chip, and then there's two chips, and then there's a triac. That might just be a switching controller, and then there's a couple of capacitors. It's a very simple circuit. But you know, I mean, it's simple now. If you go back to like a 20-year-old servo that weighs 10 times as much, is 3 times as big, consumes 10 times more voltage, but then worked forever. There's just, you know, you go from the big servos to smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller, big wattage resistors down to smaller and smaller wattage resistors eventually. And these SMD chips, which stands for surface mount chips, they just don't have the tolerance for heat like the old ones did, that had giant wire leads on them and everything. There was just lots of places for heat to sink. So, but there was big trade-offs, and it's called weight. So that's part of the reason why the planes we're getting today, even though we do occasionally have things break and fail, which sucks, we have a lot of technology packed into a very small package, and it's kind of incredible all that's happening on this plane when you're flying it. So anyway, that's all I'm going to show. Showing the gear replacement, that's just basically a servo replacement, so it's super simple. I'm not going to waste your time on it, but I did want to share that with you in case nobody had ever explained exactly what it means to have a reverse servo. So obviously that's going to be done. Everything else is working, as you can see. And we didn't discuss this after the landing, but the flaps were deployed. That was normal. Okay, so that was by design. That was correct. Everything was right. And then also, I believe on this plane, I gave up safe for flap runs because I needed the channel so that I could actuate between regular and flaps. So I had to give up the channel I would have used to turn it on, because I noticed when this fired, it fired up like just once. Yep. Not that'd be twice. That'd be meaning the safe select is active. So if you do fly with flap runs, you'll give up safe, okay? On an NX8, if you go to an NX10, it's possible you may get an additional channel that you can use for that function. So anyway, guys, hopefully this information isn't completely overwhelming. I know a lot of you guys are pretty advanced pilots if you're flying this one, and so you understand what's going on. Oh, and then also while I was soldering, the one other trick of the day, I wrapped this aluminum foil around the wire, and then I taped it to the EDF fan. It just happened to work out really nice, so I had my wire sticking through. It worked really nice. Some of this stuff doesn't film well, and I got the kids playing in the background, music playing and stuff like that. So this time you didn't get to watch the exact process, the entire thing step by step. It's a little bit quicker and easier for me to show you because there are a lot of moving, you know, like soldering those little things is tough. And to be honest, when you're soldering those things, it's just like you barely touch it. Look how dirty that tip is. It's so terrible.
Well, and there's a lot of troubleshooting. Like you've been working on it, you know, just doing little piddly
like
stuff
with
off
the
and on.
With the free multimeter that's garbage, and you know, just testing the individual stranded wires. It's like, you know, those are the types of things that are really super boring to watch. But at the same time, I take for granted that it's like, I think it's easy to do. And some of you guys might not think it's easy to do. Well, the thing is, eventually it will be easy for you to do too. But you have to do it. You have to have a repetition. You have to do it like tens of thousands of times. And then eventually you'll be good at it. But when you first start, it's tough because you're not good at it. And so you're overwhelmed by all these details. Anyway, that's why you come to Brian Phillips RC, because we help you learn how to fix these things. Of course, you can go and buy $30 servos or $15 servos or whatever, and you can buy them from the links. We have a master link above that says Horizon Hobby. Just click on that. And then when you buy stuff, we'll get, you know, like small commissions because they know that we sent you to the website to purchase those things, which is pretty cool. And that is, after all, how we fund our channel. Also, I wanted to show you one other thing. I used a staple, just like I suggested. I took a staple. Remember how these broke because I knocked it on the table? And I bent it, melted it, and it stuck into that. I did another one and I just stuck it straight in and then I broke it off because I felt like it worked just as good. But that was super easy. And this is exactly what it looked like. I used the staple that was in a stapler, a swing line stapler, I believe it's my stapler. And I took and I held it like this. And I used my torch, my little, and I got it until it was red hot. See how it's red hot? And then I literally took that and I stuck it in there and just dived it into the plastic. It was very simple, and that cooled really fast, by the way. So it was hard to do because every time I heated it, it wanted to cool as I was penetrating. So I had to pull it back out, heat it up, and then just like go for it. And as you can see, the ventral fins are fine. It's obvious. It's not like I'm trying to pull a fast one here, guys. You know I fix everything. And there's marks on it. So the ventral fins, of course, when we're done, will go right in here, and they'll be just as they were before. So really, the only thing that sustained damage that isn't going to be fixed today is the nose cone. Obviously, these two got fixed, no problem. That was super easy. I just CA'd the clip points here. So those clip points will go back onto the wing. I can't remember which side's which. There is a way to tell, and it's this plastic goes down. Yep. So I think this one goes over here. So just so you guys can see, and I hope it doesn't break now all of a sudden while you guys are watching. See, it just goes right on. It's not a big deal. I mean, they're going to break. That's the first thing that always breaks on an airplane. If you're flying along and you crash and you don't break off your missiles, you are the luckiest person ever. Just buy a lotto ticket.
You didn't crash very good then.
Yeah, you didn't do a good job crashing. You need to learn more from Brian Phillips RC. So without further ado, guys, we love this plane. We don't want to leave it in we don't want to cast it in a negative light, and I don't believe we've done that today because obviously we work with Horizon a lot and we want to kind of put our best foot forward, let's say. But that servo failed, and that was not my fault. So I did not make that mistake. This is a Horizon mistake. So Horizon, it happens. Thank you for giving us a great plane at least. Yeah. So that being said, E-flite stuff is second to none. That doesn't mean you're never gonna have a failure. But think about it like this, guys, and I'm serious, and a lot of you guys are gonna be able to echo this in the echo chamber of the interweb, and that is Horizon Hobby backs up their stuff. So if I wasn't in a hurry and super impatient person, then I could just call them up and say, hey, what the heck happened? I just had a servo, fail that caused me to crash my plane. And believe it or not, they'll take care of you. I'm not gonna tell you what they're gonna do or not do because I don't know what your situation is. I don't wanna give you guys false hope for, whatever. But at the same time, I can tell you that I have crashed many a planes and Horizon has helped me on many a planes, even when it was my fault. So that being said, signing off for today. Thanks for watching, guys. Hopefully the audio quality was good. I did not put my dorky pocket protector and mic back on.
You look way less nerdy.
I do, but subject matter made up for it. So stay tuned. So much more coming from Brian Phillips RC. We love doing this stuff for you guys. And obviously special thanks to the camera crew for tolerating it. This plane is great. I love it. I actually like it better than the Viper. I know, you're like, are you serious? What? You just had that problem and you still like it better? Yeah, pretty much. I love this plane. It's awesome. It's like my favorite plane. The Viper is one of my favorite jets, okay? But it's not the favorite jet. I love flying the Viper, by the way. And you know what? I kind of like the little 70 almost as much, even though the landing gear have their weaknesses. Because I love the way it looks when you come in for low passes. And in this tighter environment that we fly, I love the 70 for its size. Maybe that's part of the reason why I love this so much, but I gotta be honest. This plane, the biggest flaw and the only flaw I have on this plane is the fact that it is hard to slow down, and the thrust reverse makes up a huge difference. So if you get one, make sure you get the pilot fatigue setup because you will want it and it will make this plane land in half the distance. Otherwise, you're gonna need 800-900 feet to roll out, unless you're just a phenomenal pilot. And there are pilots that are a lot better than me and they can do it in shorter. But the average pilot is gonna take a landing at an almost flat attitude and they're gonna roll out forever because these things spin. Look how easy they spin. And they're quiet too, which is really cool. All right, guys, that's all you get. Leave your questions and comments in the comments section below. Don't forget to buy these things from the links. If you don't want to buy them from the links, Patreon and PayPal is available. Thanks for watching. Okay, so it's been a few minutes. we have the nose finished. I had to fix the antenna that was missing here, and then the antenna that had blown out, or the pitot tube, or whatever that is, supersonic tip. And basically, I had already replaced that once from the first time I crashed it. And so this actually didn't sustain much damage, but that popped off, and this got broke off, which is the first thing that breaks, by the way, in case you guys are wondering. If you want to keep your planes in pristine condition that are jets, just order nose cones when you order your plane, because every time you have like even an insignificant thing, you're going to break that tip. And I can tell you that that is true even on the 70mm F-16 in the Thunderbirds finish, because this is the F-16 Falcon and 80mm. But on the 70mm, the tip comes out. It's like a rubberized tip, and it comes out anyway.
Yeah.
So Same thing happened on every plane that I've had that's like that. The SU-29, or was it the MiG-29?
Or the SU-30.
SU-30?
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much we've lost the tip on it.
That F-16 one is like always on the floor in the basement. Like you walk up against it and it falls off.
Falls off. Yeah. So anyway, so this is just a toothpick that's pushed in, and I just colored it black, so it's just pressure, and literally that's all you have to do after the first time it gets screwed up, and it looks suitable from the air. It looks good on the ground, even when you're looking up close. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to cycle the gear. Gear door.
Gear door.
Now, one thing I do notice is that the clearance on the gear door is just a little bit less than maybe what it was on this side, because you'll notice that on the sweep it touches. Now you see how that moves in and out just a little bit? That's just the play on the servo horn, because I did end up ultimately replacing it with an Emax like 9-gram metal gear servo, which is right here. So if you want to come around and show them from right here. There's the servo. And you're like, what's all that black stuff around it? That's electrical tape. Why is there electrical tape around your servo, Brian? Because that servo was just a slightly thinner servo, and so I wrapped the wire around it to make up thickness, and then I just put electrical tape and pulled it really tight, and then I glued that back into the pocket. It filled the pocket really nicely. So now, as you can see, when we close the gear, it clears. Then I want to show you one thing from this end here. So I'm going to just keep cycling so you can get over here in time. These cup in like that on both sides. So as you're on final, what's going to happen is those will tend to open up wider, okay? So the idea is, watch when this comes up. This may touch right here, just a little teeny bit. See, it kissed it. Okay, I just want to let you know there's a little bit more play here, and that has to do with the way I reamed out the hole on the actual servo horn. So I may end up redoing that servo horn just to make a really tight fit on that linkage. But I'm going to let all this glue set up because I've got foam to foam in there around that pocket. And the best thing to do is let it dry, and it may just be fine, because I think the worst case scenario is once we close the gear in flight after a takeoff, I think this thing may not pull as tight as that one, but it does have a nice smooth finish. And by the way, that is not as easy as it looks. So the first time you do it, you'll understand what I'm talking about. It seems like it's gonna be very easy, and it never is as easy as it looks. There's always a lot of finagling. Okay, also elevator, as we talked about earlier, you have good clearance, ailerons were never damaged, and then we'll show you the steerable just from this angle. So as you can see, it comes out, deploys, and the locking mechanism works, and look at the rudder. Okay, so we have good, everything works. That's the key, okay? I did note one thing, and this is something you want to double check when you're pulling a servo from a crash plane. There is just a hair more play on this. Okay, it's still gonna resist movement. This one has some movement too mechanically, because I've got a lever action here. But if you just look at the amount of movement, there's just a teeny tiny bit more play. It is actually the same servo gear system. So what I should have done is, because the gears weren't damaged, it was the motor and the controller board. And over here on this one, I believe what happened was sequencer worked fine. The sweep went down and it caught the foam in a weird way, because then on the way out, it died. Here's why I know, because even here you could see I had to cut that servo tip of the control arm. This one's cut. Guess what? Mine wasn't. So I think the reason it failed is because it was overdriving into the servo or into the ground or the foam. It might not be that, it might just been a fluke, might have been because of a crash I had. But all I can say is I'm very happy with everything. Everything seems to be working good. So as you can see, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna flip it back over on its legs here. Obviously the gear were fine, because the gear were collapsed when we landed. We crash landed, right?
Right.
And I'm just gonna put it down. The gear on this plane are amazing. So also I wanted to show you where everything plugged in a little bit less confusing way, since we kind of reviewed that real briefly. This is the gear channel that comes out, then it splits off. This is a sequencer. It goes, here is where all the doors are plugged in. Here's where the landing gear are, and then this is the landing gear light. If you look at the front, it disappears, it goes off, and then it comes on. So if you ever decided to add more landing lights, then you can actually parallel off of that wire, which would be cool. So, or if you wanted to make like your nav lights turn on and off, or maybe like have these ones turn off with the gear and these ones stay on all the time, you could do that. Now this was this functionally, oh, where was that attached? I think it was attached over here because the antenna's over there. Yeah, it was glued right here, okay? So I'm literally just gonna glue that back down there, tuck all my cabling back out of the way, but for now, just to show you what it looks like. And this is the cool part, is it's super rewarding. It's kind of like a weirdly satisfying thing. When you have what would have been a potential for total loss on an airplane, and then you crash it and you're like, oh my goodness, this thing has like 9 lives, like a cat, okay? And you know, if somebody else was flying it, it would have a lot more lives. But also the ordnance are reattached, the ventral fins are reattached. Everything survived with very limited effort, with the exception of that inboard servo on the gear door. That was a real pain in the neck. And honestly, I didn't have to reroute my wires. I rebuilt the servo in place, which I have done before on videos. If you don't know how to do it, a lot of times when you have plastic gear servos and they strip out, it's always the same gear. I keep all my dead servos from every dead plane, and then I can go and just steal from a pile, so I almost never have to put in a new servo. And I would highly recommend you do the same if you're gonna get in the hobby and stay in the hobby for a little bit. One thing about it that's bad is that when you do, you don't always know that the servo is gonna be good. And then the other thing is you have to always make sure you vet between whether it's a servo that failed or the controlling circuit that failed. And sometimes it's the controlling circuit, but I would say that on my experience is about 99% of the time, it is the servo that failed, whether it be the motor that got overdriven and it just kept running, and burned out, or and you can literally run out the brushes because they're not designed to have long duty cycles, okay? And then the other thing that can happen is that you'll strip out that second gear in the series, okay? It's actually the second gear to the output, so it's like the 4th gear. And you'll know what I'm talking about if you open them up. But anyway, I do everything inside of the plane. I disconnect it because I hate chasing wires through these planes, like worse than anything, because you always have to dig so much stuff out. Megan and I were super impressed with the serviceability on this plane. They are generally not very serviceable at all. This thing did great. I mean, granted, it would have been much greater if it wouldn't have crashed. And this time it actually wasn't my fault. So that's kind of comforting. Also, this little ding here sucks, but you know what? It's not gonna cause a functional problem. This ding is where the elevator, the stabilator got stuck. See? And so that is just a function of the nature of beast. When you're coming in to stall into a flight pattern, you're gonna tend to pull up on the elevator. And that's again why I was torn between doing a high alpha plop down. And then the other thing is, like, do you deploy flaps or do you just bring it in as slow as you can, but then you have to run the risk of flipping on its side or flipping on its other side, and then you'd be total loss just about. Because I guarantee you break off your wings, you probably break the fuselage. It's just gonna be very expensive to get back to where you wanna be, both with time and money. So as you can see, it's working, and just to prove it to you a little bit further, I'm gonna go ahead and tax it just a little bit. That is so cool, guys. I can't wait to get this thing in the air and just confirm that everything is 100%. But I mean, what an absolute gorgeous plane. I love this plane. That's why I spent pretty much all day.
Most of the day.
And you know, ironically enough, the 2 planes that we flew today were both fixed within the last 24-hour period. And that is just kind of part of it. So if you're not into fixing planes, you're probably not going to survive very long in this hobby because it gets very expensive if you buy new stuff every time you crash. And it's already expensive as it is. So my recommendation is, as you continue to work your way through your flying career, and by the way, like this nose cone, I actually have a brand new one in a box right now. But I'm like, you know what, that's good. That's good. I'm gonna be fine with that because you know what's gonna happen the next time I fly.
Yep.
I'm gonna end up crashing it again. So
You'll like literally never put it on.
Yeah, I'll never put it on and then I'll end up crashing it and then it'll be like leftover. So I probably should just put it on just so it can be on there. Anyway, I love the plane. It's a great plane. You guys won't be disappointed if you get one. And then also, remember, when you go to put your ordnance back on, these things will go on the wrong side. So if you look at this, the plastic is supposed to be down. Okay, and so the plastic is supposed to be down, but I think I might have got that missile backward because that missile has a rub mark on the top. That's kind of weird.
I don't know how that happened, but either way, it doesn't matter. It's probably just the way it ripped off when it was on the ground. So everything is rock solid. It should be ready to fly, and I'm gonna be able to do it confidently at 100 miles an hour. Of course, I'm gonna do a couple passes at altitude, make sure I got a little bit of room to respond. But if I got that wrong, if I got that wrong, it's the wrong side. If I got this servo wrong, it isn't gonna last very long. Like, I probably won't even get off the ground. And if I do get off the ground, it's gonna be a little bit tediously scary. So I think we're gonna be totally fine. And I'm really happy with the F-16. Now, between this and the Viperjet in closing, I think that the Viperjet is easier to fly. I think it performs better at low speed. I think it is a better flying plane, okay? Better flying plane. If that's what you're looking for, you're gonna err on that side of things. 7,000 milliamp 6S is a great pack size. If you have the Carbon Z Cub, Carbon Z T28, Carbon Z Cessna 150T, this is a great size. I don't know about the T28. I will let you know that shortly, hopefully. This is a great size, Gen 1, Gen 2, okay? I would definitely recommend the bigger packs in this plane and that plane alike. And it is kind of ironic because this is a lot smaller plane. You're probably gonna get about the same or slightly less flight time on this plane than you will on the Viperjet, which is bizarre because that's got a 90 millimeter EDF, which is, you know, it's like more than 10% bigger than the 80. So keep things in mind when you're doing your comparisons. It's a lot of money either direction, so I want you guys to get the most bang for your buck. I love them both. I am very, very, very happy to have two of them, especially after the last 24-hour period, because I've crashed both of them, and they could have both been complete losses, but they weren't. So very fortunate and very happy that you guys stay tuned to watch this video. Hopefully you learned something. If you didn't learn something, give us a like anyway. But if you did learn something, definitely give us a like. And we want you guys to come back and watch our unbox build radio setup videos. If you're in the mood for fixing or learning about how to fix things, watch a video that includes the word crash within my title. I'm serious. All you have to do is go to my channel. There's a search bar for just Brian Phillips RC. Click on the face. It's got like this little young kid that looks like me. Click on that because it's old and there's no beard on there. Once you click on it, there's a search bar. Click on the search bar, you can type crash, and we generally repair what we crash in videos. Not always, not 100% of the time, but it's probably like, again, like a 95% of the time.
Most of the time.
And the camera crew loves it.
It's my favorite part.
Because, and I kind of hate it too. That's part of the reason why I get annoyed when I crash. It's not so much like the crash, it's the aspect that, oh, now I have to waste a day fixing this, or a half a day, or 3 hours, or 2 hours.
It's the worst thing to film. It's so challenging
tedious.
because it's so
It's
tiny
tough.
and tedious.
Yeah.
And
But anyway, that's why come back to Brian Phillips RC, because I show you not only how to crash, but how to fix it when you're done. And so you have slightly worse planes every time. but the good news is, because we're gonna get you into the next new plane, it won't be a problem. You won't notice anymore. All right, stay tuned. That's all you get for today. Check the links, buy stuff from the links. That's how you support us. Patreon, PayPal is another option if you don't like either of those options. And if you don't like that, at least give us a like, come back for the next video, click the bell for notifications so that you know when we have new content releasing. We try to release content a couple times a week. We're thinking about doing maybe a third release, and there's our rain for the day. Look at that, guys.
oh, yay.
We need rain bad.
Me too.
And that's one of the things that's nice. When you get rain and you review RC airplanes a lot, it's almost like a relief. It's like, oh.
Like, oh, we
I
can't
don't
do
have
anything
to,
right
I
now.
don't have to feel bad about not flying right now, because I love flying, but
Oh
it
my
is
goodness.
still like, it's raining hard.
It's really raining.
I was joking with the camera crew the other day, or not the other day, but just earlier today when we were doing this plane. And I said, we need to film another flight today. And she kind of looked at me like that. I'm gonna kill you in your sleep look. But she didn't yet, but we haven't slept yet.
You haven't slept yet.
Anyway, but yeah, so if you guys get another clip, that clip would follow now. So just stay tuned. You never know when it's gonna happen. Maybe you'll get one.
Other things to do.
All right, thanks for watching.
All right, YouTube, so we're done with this F-16 and the repairs. It's been a couple of days, admittedly, but we wanted to show you another flight. We felt like it was unfair to end it on a crash. So we got the cycling opening and the cycling closing, okay? So as you can see, the gear door works fine, and then the B got out, good. All right, so we're gonna open this back up. We've got a little bit of wind coming from there, so we should be good on takeoff and landing. So I'm just gonna go ahead and quickly set this down. We'll test all the regular features. And putting this plane down is kind of challenging because the way you have to hold it. You see, I had to throw that in my left hand. All right, so throttle cuts off, elevator. Ailerons, rudder, steerable, everything seems to be working. Takeoff flaps, landing flaps. Getting the sunglasses set. We're gonna go into reverse thrust controllable. Okay, so we're good there. That sounds so good. Okay, so we'll hope that this thing is lined up pretty good. Take off flaps, and here we go. Oh yeah, out of the gear, out of the flaps. We're just gonna be a kind of conservative on our first flight. About 50% throttle here. Take off flaps still in. Oh, that looks so stinking gorgeous. Yeah, out of the flaps all together. We do have a flap to elevator mix setting. I'm gonna show you that real quick. Okay, so it's on now. So it gives you a lot more elevator authority, or at least the feel of it. See that bird up there? Okay, out of the flap to elevator mix. I wanna try a couple of greasy landings. We'll see if we can get them in. Okay, so takeoff flaps coming in. Gear coming down, we're gonna call them when we see them. We're just gonna relax. Camera crew's gonna do a quick check to make sure we're clear on traffic.
Clear.
There you go, touch and go for you. Out of the gear, out of the flaps. Just getting a little altitude so we can go over that tree line there. Actually got a little bit of room to spare. As you can see, everything worked nicely. Up and over. Gotta love it. Into the takeoff flap so we can go slower on the rollout into the full throttle. Nice aggressive maneuvering here. That's about 75% on the back on the stick. Do a little roll here. There's about 80% on the stick there. Takeoff flaps, landing flaps coming in. We're gonna just stay away from this spot. I would seem to get burned. Gear coming out. You good on visibility?
Yep.
Call the gear.
I see him.
Okay, I'm not even gonna take it out of the gear. Beautiful, guys, beautiful. She lives to see another day. A little bit of rudder to keep that nose going straight. Keep that nose down. Into my light throttle, about 50% throttle. I love flying this plane. I can't resist at least one high-speed pass with 56 seconds left on our timer. We're gonna respect it even though we have 7,000 in here. Okay, full speed pass. Oh yeah, baby. And then we'll full speed pass it, takeoff flaps for this. Okay, out of the takeoff flaps, full throttle. Oh, love it. Guys, it's in one piece. That's the way I like it. Okay, bleeding off a lot of inertia there, going uphill, landing flaps coming out. Into base leg already, we're just gonna relax into it, let the wing get up under there. 15-20% throttle, just keep her moving, keep her live, keep the controls doing what they do. Pilot fatigue. Oh yeah, buddy.
Nice.
That was a long landing. I'm gonna just go ahead and taxi forward because we've got room. Okay, so as you can see, there's a little mud on the road. Somebody decided to do a little ditch diving yesterday, and I had to go out there and clean that up. Fortunately, I was the one who made the mess. Out of the takeoff flaps, doing a little zigzag for you, just so you can see both sides of that beautiful creature. Guys, do not underestimate how much damage you can pick up from a little chunk of mud. Take the time, clean it up. Takeoff flaps, landing flaps there. Full flapper on deployment there. Absolutely gorgeous plane. Love looking at it from this side. And as you can see, we have pretty good. Everything looks good. In terms of function, we're good. Everything's still working here. That's what it looks like with the rudder, with the elevator tie out of the flaps. You can see that. What an absolutely gorgeous plane, folks. Absolutely love this plane. Felt like we didn't do it any justice the other day when we had that accident because of the one gear door servo that failed to open. But there you have it now, guys. Between this F-16 80 millimeter from E-flite, throttle cuts on, and basically going up against 90 millimeter Viperjet, you're gonna have a really hard time picking. But if you're into scale jets, I think the F-16 is a no-brainer. If you're into the slightly higher performance, I feel like the Viperjet's gonna do it for you every day. The Viperjet is easier to fly, it's easier to land, it's a little bit more robust built, it's a bigger plane. The F-16 is way, way, way more beautiful and detailed, in my opinion. I love the way they both look. There's way more lights on the Viper. There's a very good amount of lights on the F-16, looks super ultra scale. And I love just about everything about this plane other than the fact that I have crashed it. I lost count and it's still flying and it's still flying good. I don't feel like there's any compromise there, which is very cool, guys. If you get a piece of crap plane and you crash it, it becomes a piece of crap spare parts pile. But if you have a decent plane, you can get some parts if you need them and you can fix it. In this case, the only parts I needed were a couple of gear splines, right? A motor and a controller for the actual servo. And I pulled the guts out, changed it, fixed it, put it back in. And then I had to fix the elevator. Remember how the elevator was broke? On this side, because the way it landed in the grass, this got kicked up. So really can't believe how well this plane did after that. I thought it was a goner. I was scared for its life. But as you can see, she lived to see another day. Guys, tough decision. We're here to help you make up your mind. We understand that when you look at a price sheet from Horizon, you know, you just don't always get the feel. If you just go on the website, you're not going to understand what the advantage is from this plane versus that plane versus the other plane. And I can tell you this right now. The F-16 is amazing, and I really love it. It's probably my favorite jet right now, but I still have to say this. The Viper flies better, period. It just does. It has better control surfaces. It has a bigger wing. It's got lower wing loading. It's got a higher speed. I think maybe it does ups better, all 90 millimeter EDF compared to 80, but this one looks better doing it. So you have to make that tough decision with your hard-earned money. And I know that it's a lot of money for either of these two planes are going to set you back hundreds of dollars, closer to $1,000 than they are to hundreds. But the thing is, you're going to love them. And if you're like me at all, you're going to go for the scale F-16, because this F-16 Falcon is amazing and it is one of the best that I've flown. And to be perfectly frank with you, I haven't flown a lot more beyond it, but I love it. It's my favorite plane right now. And it's also not an everyday flyer. I feel like the Viperjet could be that. So again, given the same amount of money in one pocket and you have to make a decision between the two, guess which one I'm gonna buy? That one. Why? Because I love the F-16. Yeah. So, like I said, it's hard to get past those inherent biases when it comes to aircraft, but that's my bias. And so I want you guys to get the no BS approach. This plane is great. The Viper's technically better, but I like this plane better. So there you have it, guys. Side-by-side comparison. This one's a little bit later. We got a little bit more wind going than I thought we would. But you know what? Sometimes wind, if it's nice and laminar, is actually really helpful for a jet. So just keep that in mind when you're flying. And then 7006S fits in here. You got to put it flat. Let's show them where it is. So we'll pop the lid. See where it is there? Right up against the bulkhead. That's as far back as I can get it because the way the wires come out of that smart pack. And that is a Gen 2 6S 30C pack. It is not a higher C pack. I don't even know if they make a higher C pack in the 7000. The 7000 really does good because you can still flare for landings. I feel like it's a little bit heavier on the elevator, but that's why we have this mix for this. That's why we add that in. Believe me, the cool thing about the wing type in this particular plane is that even though it's not designed for flaperons, you can just turn it on. You have to split the ailerons, right? Do we have to do that? I can't even remember if we had to do that.
I mean, if we did
But
it,
we
it would
have
be
a video.
Yes.
We have a video, so all you have to do is click on the playlist, which a good place to find the playlist if you don't want to use YouTube, which is totally fine, would be www.brianphillipsrc.com. You can find this plane, you can find all the videos attached to it, or you can just, if you're on YouTube, you can just go to the search, click on my face on that little icon that's got a child's picture that looks like what I might look like about 20 years ago. Click on that. You'll go to our homepage, you'll see kind of the, you know, the different videos and things that we have. There's a search bar. Click that search bar and you can search that way, or you can just go to the playlist and you can find this particular plane. This would be the Horizon Hobby F-16 Falcon 80 millimeter. And we try to use the exact nomenclature that the manufacturers use so that you can easily find this plane. When you're making a decision for this much money, it's kind of like almost, the way I liken it is if you buy a new expensive airplane and you don't go to Brian Phillips RC, that's like getting a plane or getting a car without test driving it. It's just totally dumb. You should come to Brian Phillips RC and make your final decision, because the thing is, you know, maybe we got that thing in the air and it sucked, or it sucked because I'm not a good enough pilot. I let you guys know that. I feel like I can fly this pretty good. So there are much better pilots, by the way. I don't want to caveat that statement, but this plane is amazing. I love it. I would totally get it again, given the opportunity. And if it was between this and the Viper, even though I think the Viper is a better plane, I would pick this one first. Also, smaller planes do store a little bit better, but Warbirds are some of the worst to store Warbird jets because they have ordnance and things like that. The Viperjet will store easier.
That's true.
Even though it's a bigger plane.
Yep.
Less likely to get hanger rash. Plus, this thing is fully painted, which looks absolutely amazing.
Yep.
Viperjet 90, it is white with highlight colors. So you get raw foam. So this has a much better finish on it, I think. But the lights, the fit, the finish, everything on this plane is amazing. You'll love it. Check the links in the video description below. Best way you can support Brian Phillips RC, my family, the camera crew, Megan, my wonderful wife of many, 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 many years.
Yep.
And our 4 children would be to buy these planes. The next best thing you can do is if you want to support us as a Patreon or PayPal one-time gifts. We got links for that down below, also on brianphillipsrc.com. Definitely take a second, check out brianphillipsrc.com. Even if you don't navigate too much, it'll help us a little bit. We're basically trying to grow that thing so that you guys know where to find everything. And then if YouTube ever does stupid things, then we have that so we can launch videos from there. So anyway, we love doing this stuff for you, and we appreciate you guys being our, you know, the patronage that you've given us for years. Definitely like the videos. The long format hurts us on the algorithm. So if you like the longer format, definitely give us a thumbs up. If you like the shorter videos, also give us a likes, you know, because it's harder to get them. But we love doing this stuff. We love bringing you guys in-depth reviews and analysis of these aircraft from a true addict's perspective. This is not like somebody that started this just so he could make some money on YouTube. That is not why we do this. I love radio-controlled airplanes. My wife loves me.
Usually.
So that's it. Thanks for watching, guys. Come back for more. Brian Phillips RC signing out.